The A's are moving cities, the Pirates are moving backwards, and somehow the team with every excuse to stink looks more promising than the one that started rebuilding first. Let's talk about that next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Pirates, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. Today, we're diving into the final stretch of the 2025 season, starting with the A's coming to town. Two franchises often found at the bottom, but only one seems to be climbing out. We'll talk about what that says about the Pirates, what excuses are already forming, and whether this season ending feels like relief more than regret. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Go to www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. So the A's are coming. The A's are coming. I'm the Paul Revere of this, I guess. The A's are in flux. They're moving cities. They don't even have a permanent home right now. They shed payroll. They rebuilt from the ground up. All kids for the most part. They even just traded their all-world closer, Mason Miller, for another prospect, another top-tier looking prospect. And it's kind of incredible to be sitting here at this point of the season, the A's having a superior record to the Pirates. They're not even in the basement in the AL West. They've got a really, really promising core of young hitters, including Jacob Wilson and Kuntz, and a lot of decent players that I think the Pirates would love to get their hands on. They don't have the pitching that the Pirates do. That's true. Position player side has been very strong for the A's. I think we can expect that. And you would hope that the Pirates' good pitching would neutralize that to a degree. But the story of the season is that the A's put together a better unit than the Pirates did. They had every excuse in the world not to. They're stuck in Sacramento. One of the pitchers they signed doesn't even want to be there vocally. Asked plainly to get traded at the deadline. The team basically said, no. The A's are a quandary. They moved away from their fan base. They're stuck in the middle of a minor league ballpark. They've got an awful lot of really cheap players with not a lot of experience. But that offense is very real. That is a team that could take you to the woodshed on a nightly basis. Doesn't mean they always do. That's why their record is what it is, but they have that capability. They can hit the ball over the fence, my goodness, and they've got more coming. They really do. They're going to struggle with pitching. They don't have that side of things nailed down. I could probably take this podcast in another direction where I'm talking about the A's being a great trade partner for the Pirates. And I think that's one way that we should watch this series, actually. Not because we don't know some of these names or whatever. Of course, you're all going to want somehow the Pirates to trade for Jacob Wilson. And, all that stuff is normal. But just look around the fringes of their roster. See if you can find something that you think the Pirates might be able to pluck free. Because the A's very desperately need what the Pirates do well, and the Pirates very desperately need some of what the A's do well. But there's something there to be learned, right? We talk about this team needing to make big changes, needing to make a better hire next time they hire a GM. This is kind of what I'd like them to shoot for. Some team that has done an excellent job of identifying and stockpiling and developing, and more important than any other factor, actually getting them pushed over the edge from the minors to the majors with a modicum of success. They've done this for years and years and years. I'd just say go and see if you can get a sample of their special sauce instead of trying to create your own, having no idea what even the first ingredient might be. These are the types of teams that the Pirates are going to have to understand what they've done and model to a degree. If you want to have young impact players come up here and make an impact, well, you have to figure out whatever it is other teams are doing in order to get that impact a lot more often. It's not something that you can continue to just abide with. You know, you can't be taking 3-4 years of work to get yourself to the point where you finally have a major league ready player. Nick Gonzalez is a great example, and I love what Nick Gonzalez has done this year. I'd like him to add some power. I'd like a little bit more consistency. The approach needs to improve here and there in certain situations. You know, he's not a lightning bug. He's not going to fly around the bases or anything. He plays good defense, not exceptional defense. He's got a cap on where he can get to as a player, right? But it's taken this team the better part of 3 years. And I say that because I think 3 years ago is the first time that we really started thinking, okay, let's get Nick Gonzalez up here and see what he is, right? And they didn't, of course. They took their time. And yes, he's had some injuries too that have slowed down the progress. That's probably why I have it at 3 years. But each of those last couple seasons, they didn't use him as much as they should. They left him in the minors longer than I think other teams would have. And then this year, I think it's paid off. He's really had a good season. He was injured at the beginning, but it looks like he's put something together that is reasonable. I think you feel pretty decent coming back next season with Nick Gonzalez having a role to play, being a player, being a starter. I think he's gotten to that point. He's officially right now MLB regular, not a star. He's an MLB regular. You should get MLB regulars out of less than first round picks. You get what I mean? When you get a first round pick, MLB regular kind of needs to be like the baseline. That needs to happen. You're going to get an MLB regular player out of this guy. And you'll get it relatively quick. Maybe not the first season, but the second season, yeah, it's going to be there. That's why we drafted him. You know, he's got the ability to be this, but this is where his low point is. And I think, you know, basically it shouldn't take 3 years to get to the bare minimum. That's a long time, and you'll never be successful building a team this way if that's how it happens. Look at Henry. Henry comes up here. They're so afraid to let him play any defense at all behind the plate that they shove him out in right field. They call him up for the bat. The bat produces. He comes back next year, and they choose, okay, instead of that, we're going to have you catch. And I'm glad that you're going to catch. That's what we wanted you to do. So just keep doing everything else. Well, they completely ignored the hitting side of things because, again, they're so panicked about the catching ability that they asked him basically to focus all of his energy into becoming a good catcher. Well, he did. But they ignored the bat. And so now we're going to be entering, what, year 3 or 4 with Henry? Right? Year 3 or 4 with Henry will be 2026. And I have a lot of belief that he's going to come back and at least be able to handle the bat to a mediocre level. I don't think that's a lot to ask. But if he does, that's 3 or 4 years to get back to being like a Major League regular for a number 1 pick. I need a lot more impact when they come up. You got to have a lot more impact than that quickly. And part of that is you got to let them do it. I think that might be the secret sauce right there. The A's just call these guys up and throw them into action. Jacob Wilson didn't come up here and ride the pine and hit 8th. He came up and started shortstop and hit like 3rd and crushed the league for a while too. Kurtz has come up and just done incredible things as a rookie from a power perspective. But again, they just handed him first base. Here you go. Take it over, kid. They're not platooning him. And he struggled early on against certain pitching. But they've let him try it. This team won't even let them try. You got to be more bold if you're going to try to grow with youth. You have to stop being so afraid to use it. And you got to use it consistently. And then you got to do better training them so they're actually able to pick up the mantle when you do. When we come back, I just want to talk about the excuse that I already feel is forming for the way this team has finished 2025. Need a boost to power through the day without reaching for another cup of coffee or an energy drink? That's where Zippix caffeine toothpicks come in. Instead of the crash you get from sugary drinks, Zippix gives you a clean, convenient burst of caffeine anytime, anywhere. And if you're looking for that nicotine satisfaction instead, they've got Zippix nicotine toothpicks as well. They're pocket-sized and discreet, so you can take them anywhere. Great for the airplane. Great for the airplane. Ready to try them? Go to zippixtoothpicks.com and use promo code LOCKEDON for 10% off your first order. That's zippixtoothpicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Zippix Toothpicks, energy and focus anytime you need it. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Make sure you hit that subscribe button or like. Try that hype thing out if you didn't already do it. That'd be pretty cool too. Tell a friend about the show. I appreciate it, especially you everydayers that are always here. So the excuse is already forming, if you ask me. The Pirates are very likely going to frame the end of this season and the distinct downturn they took, especially in these last few weeks, as development. They're going to toss it out there like, we played the kids. We used our pitching staff just to get through. That's what we did. But I'm here to tell you that the way this season's ending, and really the way this season has played out, this team made these decisions in the offseason. They chose this path. They got here because this is the triptych they bought. This was where this was going to end from the beginning of the season. The lack of off-season aggression, especially in the hitting side of things, created this current situation. It's not just hindsight. This was predictable to many fans. We all saw this coming. We all talked about it all season long. And it goes into what I'm going to talk about in the third segment, which is basically the merciful end to something that many of us saw coming from a mile away. It's a team that if you ask me, should have probably taken a different approach to finishing this season out. Okay? I'm not saying they shouldn't have played kids. I think that's important. But I think they should have picked some kids and just straight gone with them. And I think they should have picked some pitchers and just decided this is the rotation and gone with it. There's no normalcy around this team. There's not regular starts for anybody. Paul Skeens can barely get through 5 innings the way that they're managing this team right now. Of course, he didn't help himself in his last start with 92 pitches through 3 2/3, but For the most part, it's been artificial when he gets pulled out of these games. A lot of the pitchers are on some kind of weird pitch count. I think in some ways the Pirates are probably a little too aggressive there. I I think if they were like in some kind of a race, it's pretty fair for me as a fan to look at them and say this isn't what you would be doing if you were like in the wild card race, right? Like if you were in a wild card race, would we really be like seeing TBA for pitchers just about every day? Would we really see Paul Skeens getting pulled out after 4 or 5 innings? Would we really see all this shuffling of piggybacking and kids getting onboarded slowly? And would we really be watching all that? Would you be shuffling the lineup as often as you are, or would you be using whatever you consider to be your best lineup? The excuse they're going to use is development. But the thing is, if you're going to use the excuse of development, I need to see what you've developed. That's what I need to see. And when I start sitting here trying to come up with the list of during this last stretch of baseball, let's call it the last month, let's say all of September, what we've seen so far, what we're going to see until the end, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what questions have been answered by the way they're doing things here this last month. What have I had questions about and now I no longer seek knowledge on, right? Do you feel like you know that Cam Devaney is anything? I don't. I mean, I feel like Cam Devaney is overwhelmed at this level. I don't like his approach at the plate. The swings are uncharacteristic. Is the best way. I haven't watched a lot of Cam Devaney, but I watched him in the minors a little. I'm just going to say it. His approach in the minors was tenfold better than it is here. He had more patience. He looked like he could actually control his barrel a little bit. And that pop is real. When he gets into a ball, he gets into a ball. Just up here, nothing. I thought for a minute, like after they traded him, for him, it would have been probably wise to just bring him right up to the team. They chose not to. They chose to send him to the minors, and I understand that. But this is a kid that was having a great season in AAA, and they broke his momentum entirely. The Royals started this problem, but they called him up and sat him on their bench and did nothing with him for about 4 or 5 days. Then he gets traded. Then the Pirates, instead of keeping him in the major leagues, they demote him to AAA, where he knows automatically he's stuck down there for however many days because of league rules. And it probably felt to him like he flew right up next to the sun, and like all of a sudden now you're not going to let him touch it. You know what I mean? Like here he is in the majors. He's got an opportunity. And now you get traded, and that team, the first action they take is to demote you and take that opportunity away from you at his age. You know, I just think that they misstep on things like that. They have more incentive to try to see if Evan Sisk works out as a reliever than they do Cam Devaney. These are just things that I'm posing to you off the top of my head. Questions have been answered, right? What are they going to do at catcher? For real. Rafael Flores looks like a decent bat, right? So the only thing we've seen them do with him is shove him over at first base for one game. We're going to see more of him. We are. But let's be real. Rafael Flores is not going to be the starting first baseman, if only because Spencer Horwitz is going to be. And you don't have room for two of them, and you don't do this team a service by getting rid of Spencer Horwitz in favor of Rafael Flores. Maybe in the long term that'll be the case. Maybe in the long term we'll feel like Rafael Flores should be the starter and Spencer Horwitz should be the backup. But next year, that's not what I'm going to think. And I'm certainly not going to think it from the 4 or 5 games you're going to let him play. No, I need to see what he does at catching. That's the skill set that we're missing. That's where we have no offense. We've got next to no offense from catcher all year. That should be the priority. Get Rafael Flores in behind the dish. Let him catch. Let him catch a stretch of games. Start seeing if that skill set can play up here. And don't trust your eyes because you were dead wrong on Henry, team. No, that's where I'm frustrated. What's going on in the outfield? G1 Bay and Jack Sawinski are the best we have to even take a look at. Lever Piguero got sent down or got optioned down when they decided to call up Flores. I don't have an issue with that. But this team trained him to play in the outfield. They wanted him to be some kind of a utility player. They don't have any room in the infield. They haven't been able to get him at bats. When they have, he's actually kind of produced. That's the guy they chose to send down. Okay. But the outfield's not full. Why wouldn't you leave him up here and let me see more of him? Unless you've decided Alexander Canario is coming back next year. They're not using their time wisely. The excuse is, to me, clear as day. They're going to just say that they were developing. You should ignore this last month of the season. It's not reflective of the team. You know, so-and-so's tired, so-and-so's injured. We're going to hear all these excuses within hours of the season ending, I can tell you right now. But it's not hindsight. Again, this is stuff that we all saw coming, and maybe that's why this season has been so damn exhausting. Because on paper, it ain't the worst season ever. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about whether this is a merciful ending or if you're a little sad. I'm usually a little sad when the baseball season's ending. Not so much this year. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right means cashing in. With football back, PrizePicks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less than 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing PrizePicks a little bit lately. It's such a fun way to stay locked in on the season, no matter what's going on, even if you aren't in touch. Sometimes I do it on the NBA just because I feel like it. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get the boost when you need it. I'm going to be traveling a lot these next couple weeks. 5-hour energy will be in my backpack. I will absolutely use it to get through the ups and downs of getting to the airport on time, getting up early, not sleeping on a plane, everything involved in it. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get the favorites you love. Or be bold and try something new. In store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. It's the final 9 games. We made it, everyone. We made it. A merciful end. 3 versus the A's, 3 versus the Reds, and 3 versus the Braves. Normally, the end of the season brings me a little bit of sadness. I love the day to day of baseball. I really do. But this year, it feels like mercy. From Pirates Fest to now, the season has felt heavy and uninspired and frustrating. It's not the worst season on paper, but it's been emotionally draining. I sit here and I think back to Pirates Fest, and I remember talking about the fans that showed up to give out the t-shirts for wanting Bob to sell the team, and all the fervor about that whole thing, and wanting Ben Cherington fired and everything. And it's not that I disagreed with any of that. It just felt like preemptive anger to me. And turns out prescient anger. They were right. They were dead right. The season was going to be as bad as they thought it was going to be. A lot of those upsides that I thought might be there haven't been. A lot of the things that we were hanging our hat on, well, we lost those. I mean, it was right after Pirates Fest. I think we found out, or not right after Pirates Fest, but shortly thereafter, where we found out we were going to lose Jared Jones. And that was a hit to what we thought this pitching staff was going to be. And the pitching staff didn't wind up really being the problem. They just didn't have any hitters. That moment in time, though, that Pirates Fest, I don't know if you went. I went. I saw some of you, I'm sure, there. It just felt different. It felt much different than it has in previous years. I saw people standing around listening to the live Q&A that they always do with the general manager and Travis Williams, and everybody's all there. And normally there's a little bit of jeering. Normally there's a little bit of like sighing or huffing, or this whole thing was like that. And that feeling never left all season. The team never allowed it to. The way they started confirmed the worst fears of just about every fan. And there was no leeway given for them to climb their way back out of it. Think about it. One of the best stretches of baseball they've had is the one that preceded the one they're on right now, which is awful. But that's how long they waited to kind of start looking like a team that looked like they knew how to play baseball. It's been ugly. It has, and it's felt unsalvageable most of this year. Because it was pretty apparent, too, that it wasn't just going to be a disappointing season, like one where we didn't reach 500 and that was our goal. This was one where you kind of felt pretty convinced that not only were they not going to reach 500, but they weren't even going to reach what they did the years before. And that was all because of the way they started this baseball season. It feels like forever ago, but think about what happened this year. I mean, like, David Bednar bombed at the very beginning of the season, and he got demoted to AAA, came back up here. We really didn't trust him until right around the trade deadline, and then they moved him. The hitters just never showed up. I mean, a couple of them, Nick Gonzalez and Spencer Horwitz, were either injured on day one or before it. So you never really got to see your whole team together until it was too late to matter. Anything that could have gone wrong this year went wrong. And sometimes I feel like it's the universe's way of kind of making sure that certain people aren't rewarded for things that come up. A bad season now maybe takes care of the biggest issue the Pirates have, whereas a good season might have prolonged it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm referencing the GM. I would think like a season like this probably makes it very, very difficult for anyone to be talked into sticking with the status quo. There should be big changes. And I think there will be. The problem is the biggest changes they need to make are really on the field. They definitely desperately need to add offense to this team. And when I start really thinking about where they are in relation to the league, I get depressed because I feel like they're too far away for me to expect this team to invest enough to do what it needs to do to turn them into a surefire winner next year. I can hope for things like Odeo Cruz to do better, Brian Reynolds to do better, whatever. Take your pick of who's underperformed that you think is going to do better or should have. I expect a little more out of Spencer Horwitz next year. I expect a little more out of Nick Gonzalez next year. There's a lot of players. I expect Henry to look like he has hit before next year at least. There's things that I hope for. The pitching staff is exciting. But man, this year overall, my first year of doing Locked On Pirates, it's been pretty depressing. It's not the kind of host I want to be where I'm talking about negative things so often, but geez, you're going to start to think that I'm blind, right? I mean, so like I'll sprinkle in positive stories when I can, but like, and I'm not sure what to take from it really. Thanks for listening to Locked On Pirates. If you're feeling like this season ending is a relief, you're not alone. We'll keep covering the final stretch, but also start looking ahead because this team needs more than just time. It needs direction. Subscribe, share, and let me know what you want to hear as we wrap up 2025. 9 games left, everybody. Buckle up and let's go Bucks.